Good morning, students of Cedar Shoals. My name is Derek Maxwell, for those of you who have not had the opportunity to speak with me yet, and I'm the interim principal here. And today we're going to talk about some changes that we're going to be making, and I want you guys to really understand why we're making these changes. I know that a lot of times when we make these changes and when we have policies in place that seem to only discipline you and get students in trouble, but what we want you to understand is that this comes from a good place. The adults, the systems that have been set up in the past have enabled certain behaviors and have given you the wrong impression of what is acceptable and what our expectations are. So we're going to start over. We're going to outline the expectations. I'm going to attempt to make them real clear, and I want you guys to know that any changes we are made, the root of all these changes is to make you do better, to help you in school, to better prepare you for a real world. So it may seem that we're coming down on you and we're doing these sort of things, but just know that this comes from a good place in our hearts, and we really do care about you, and we have to make some changes because you deserve better, and that's our job, to provide better for you. So the first thing that we're going to be working on is some of the excessive absences and tardies. Beginning today, teachers have been asked to allow you into the rooms when you are tardy and mark it as tardy. If you are later than 15 minutes, you will be marked absence for that period. There is currently not any system in place to provide a punitive action for excessive tardies. And I think that this has wrongly given students the impression that it is okay or it is acceptable or is that allowed just to continue to be tardy. And what this does is send a message to you that your instruction is not important, and we have to make sure that that is not the message that you are receiving. The instruction that you receive in this building is the most important thing, and getting you in those rooms so that you can learn is something that we have to take seriously, and I hope you guys will work with me on this. So we understand that sometimes there are long distances between point A and point B, and that occasionally you are going to be tardy. So we're going to allow 10 free tardies, but at your 10th tardy, and this is period tardy, so you have 6 to 7 opportunities to be tardy in a day. At your 10th tardy, we're going to have a conference with you, and we're going to notify your parents. If you get to your 20th tardy, you will receive 1 period of ISS for the period that you have missed, that you have been tardy the most in. So for example, if you're tardy to your 3rd period 17 times and you have 3 other random tardies, then you will be assigned ISS for your 3rd period for 1 period. And each time you get 10 more tardies, there will be an additional period of ISS. We're going to print this out and laminate it and get it on the door so you can reference it. But I just want you guys to know that we feel strongly about you being in class. You are not learning if you're not in class, and that is what we are all here for. So that's that with that. Hall passes. I see a lot of students in the hallways a lot of times, and a lot of times students have the laminated passes, and those are cool and all, but they don't tell me when you left the room. And also some kids have like 3 or 4 in each pocket, and it's just not helping us understand where you should be. So starting tomorrow, we'll do individual hall passes. So the students will be responsible for writing the location of where they're going and the time, and the teacher's name will already be on the pass. So then when we see you in the hallway, if you simply show us your pass, we'll look to check and make sure you haven't been out of class for too long. And if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, business as usual, carry on. If not, we'll either redirect you back to class. If it's been an extremely amount of time, which we consider skipping, then we'll likely escort you to ISS. But we want to know where you are. That is to ensure your safety. We want to make sure that you're going where you're supposed to go. It's going to help everyone in the building. It's going to eliminate some of that confusion and get you guys in class learning where you need to be. The next thing I want to discuss is breakfast in the morning. The buses generally arrive by about 8:15. I stood out there this morning and watched them. Occasionally there are some late buses, but we'll talk about that in a minute. But what I've learned is that when the 8:40 bell rings, which is really your signal that you need to be headed to class, because when the second bell rings at 8:45, the intentions are that you are in your seat, you are ready to begin learning, because that period starts at 8:45. But what some students are doing is wait until about 8:40 for that to be their signal to go get into the breakfast line, and then you're consequently late to first period almost every day. So starting Tuesday, that's tomorrow, at 8:40, unless you are a late bus, the cafeteria doors are going to roll down and the cafeteria is closed, so breakfast will not be served. If you have a late bus, you'll receive a pass, and of course we're going to allow you to eat. But for the people who drive, it's on you to get here on time to ensure that you have breakfast. Now the buses you can't control, that's on us. So if you're on a late bus, we'll make sure that you're fed. The next thing I wanted to address was kind of the parking passes. A lot of students, or some students, I shouldn't say a lot of students, some students have been driving to school without insurance, without license, and without a parking pass. That is unsafe, unacceptable. It's going to get you in trouble in the real world, and like I said, we were all about trying to prepare you for the real world by giving you real life consequences and responsibilities here at school. You guys are young adults. It's time to start taking on some of these responsibilities. So anyone who drives here and parks here is required to have a parking permit. And also, a very small portion of students have exhibited some very unsafe behavior in the parking lot. Some excessive speeding, some drag racing, some not paying attention where you go. And this is completely unacceptable. We cannot allow anyone to get hurt here. You know, you guys' safety is the most important thing that we work on each day. So, you know, if we see you exhibiting these unsafe behaviors in the parking lot, you will be given a warning. If it's not very severe, if it's severe, we're going to revoke your parking permit for the remainder of the year. You can reapply for it next year. But just know that parking in the student parking lot is a privilege, not a right. You have the right to free transportation. That's the big yellow bus that picks you up at your house each morning. But if you decide to drive, then that is a privilege, and we're exercising our right to revoke that privilege if you do not do what we ask you to do. The next thing I wanted to kind of cover was cell phones. Now, this is very different than from when I was in high school. We didn't have cell phones. We had pagers. Probably don't even know what that is, but someone would beep you, and then you would have to go to a payphone to call them back. And when I was in high school, if you were caught with a pager or a beeper, or there were no cell phones, then it was treated very seriously. Now, moving to the bring your own technology movement and realizing that cell phones have an adequate place in our day-to-day lives. I very much use one. I'm on it often throughout the day. But just as adults have to have norms and expectations regarding the usage of cell phones, we have to let you guys know that those expectations apply to you as well. Right now, we're at the discussion phase of this. But let me tell you what's unacceptable. When I walk into a classroom and a teacher is delivering instruction and you're on your phone and you're not working on the subject matter, you're personally checking Facebook or Instagram or texting or whatever it is that's going on, that's rude to your teacher. Number one, it's not cool at all, and you're not learning. And the whole crux of this discussion is that you need to be in class and learning, because that is what we are here to do. So we're going to start asking that, you know, feel free to use it in the hallways, during breakfast, during lunch, on the bus if your driver allows you. Anywhere, you have plenty of opportunities throughout the day to use your cell phone for several minutes at a time. So adding up, you know, you can still be on your phone quite a bit. But when you're in class and your teacher is delivering instruction, the polite thing to do, the right thing to do, the best thing to do to increase your learning is to just put it away. We're going to work on this, but it can get to the point, and I hope it doesn't have to get to this, where teachers ask you to put it away. If you don't, then security will come confiscate your phone. We'll lock it up in the safe, and we'll have your parents come pick it up one day after school per week. Now, that's an inconvenience to you. That's an inconvenience to your parents. It's not what we want to do, but we have to make sure that this cell phone usage in this building is not interfering with your instruction. Another thing I wanted to briefly touch on is, I've had some reports of some offensive language towards peers and towards adults. Just know that there's a fine line between what is just having foul language and what can be offensive or violating the rights of others. One thing I always kind of say, and I want students to start to understand, is that where your rights as a student end, sometimes someone else's rights begin. So while you may feel like you have the right to express yourself however you feel, sometimes this expression infringes on someone else's rights. And it's not fair to infringe on anyone else's rights. So if you threaten or use offensive or any terrible language towards an adult or towards your peers, I just want you to know that we're no longer going to sweep that under the rug. We're no longer going to treat it as, we talked to him, he won't do it again. There will be some consequences for this, and there will be escalating consequences depending upon the frequency and what type of interaction you've had before. Now, all these things have not been laid out to you clearly before, so that's what this opportunity is. I want to get all these things out. I want you to be very aware of what we're doing, and I want you to know why we're doing it. We're not doing it to create more consequences. We're doing it because we care. We're doing it because we have to. We're doing it because you deserve better, and it's the right thing to do. And I know you guys can do this if you work with me. We can work together on this. We want to make this a better place for everyone in this building. That includes students and teachers. Everyone who enters this building, we want this to be a better place for the community. We want it to be a better place in general. So if you guys would please work with me. And for the students who are continuously doing the right thing, which is the majority of students, the vast majority of students. I've been so impressed with so many students who've came up to me and introduced themselves and welcomed me, and so many students and so many accomplishments that this school has on a daily basis. I don't want those things to get overshadowed as well, but I want you guys to know that if you're a student continuously making good choices, if you're continuously doing the right thing, that we are working on these things to make this a better place for you as too. So I appreciate you guys working with me. I'd like to continue to do these sort of announcements. I'd like for the scope of these announcements to move more from don't do this, don't do that, this is the consequence, to let's celebrate some of the great things going on at Cedar. Let's talk about how you guys have improved in this. Let's get back to the culture of where we're all working together to make this one Cedar in one place. All right, so appreciate you guys working with me. I'll be in touch. I'll be coming back soon. Next on the topic is dress code. It's getting hot outside and I can already see it in the clothing, so we'll be talking about that tomorrow. Thank you, and we'll see you then.